So this is a follow-up story about what I did the other day about how 10,000 Ukrainians have surrendered to Russia. So if you just Google, and this is where we're going to start, you just Google 10,000 Ukrainians surrender, you'll see a number of articles, but that doesn't mean that they're true. You got to consider the source. And so again, this is a follow-up, and I'm going to walk you through all the steps of critical thinking that you should already be engaging in. If you see something that sounds too good or too bad to be true, maybe it is. So here we're going to look at this article about fact check about thousands of Ukrainian soldiers, but the original article was this TASS article. TASS is Russian state media. Over 10,000 Ukrainian fighters surrendered since the summer. And then you have this camera footage that purports to show that. And then we have TFI Global. Remember that because that's going to be mentioned in one of the video clips I'll show you. Okay, TFI Global is an Indian news network that simply takes TASS and RT articles and repeats them, like wholesale, copy and paste, lazy journalism. Then we have Sputnik News. Sputnik News is saying the same kind of thing. Where's the word Sputnik come from? It's a Russian news source. Then we have RT International, a Russian news source. Then we have BNN Breaking, which is a Indian American who is essentially doing what the Indian papers do, and that is just repeating what's already out there. And then we have Dearborn.org, which I thought was very strange. It's about news for the Detroit Dearborn area, and that's in Michigan. And shame on them because they're just repeating essentially the same thing that was said there. And then we have Quora. Is it true that over 10,000? So I replied to that. Is it true that over 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers have surrendered since this summer? Okay, let's look at the fact checks. Okay, thousands of Ukrainian soldiers surrendered to Russia in early October 2023. In early October 2023, thousands of Ukrainian soldiers surrendered to Russia. That's the claim. It's unfounded. Okay, you couldn't find it in a Google search. So that tells you that there's a problem to begin with. Because if it had been true, oh, you can say, the Western media doesn't want you to know. Are you telling me that with all the division in the United States, just the United States alone, that there's no reporter in the Western media that would want to break a story that's that huge? Okay, so social media users claimed as many as 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers opted to surrender to Russia in early October 2023 via special radio frequency. There is no evidence that this is true. And I went on and explained that in great detail and explained the Ukrainians actually did something like that where they set up a I want to live number that they can call and dial in, and then we'll tell you how to surrender. But yeah, okay. In early October 2023, a rumor was circulated online that Ukraine was surrendering to Russia. Special radio frequency being used so that Ukrainian soldiers can safely surrender to Russian forces, one ex, formerly Twitter, user claimed. Thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are opting to surrender to the Russian army. These surrenders were seen even through a newly established Russian radio frequency. The comment continued, moreover, the in-question post on X had a photograph attached allegedly depicting Ukrainian soldiers in an act of surrender. So here's the claim that the special radio frequency is being used. Thousands of Ukrainians are surrendering. Look at this photo. Does this photo look familiar? Because it should look familiar if you've been paying attention. In the video by user at the Redacted Inc., and I'm going to show you a little bit from Redacted, at the time of this writing, had accumulated over 360,000 views. Now, some of these guys believe it. Some of these are grifters just trying to profit off what's going on, just spreading the most wild, controversial things that they can because it gets more clicks, more eyeballs. So you got to be careful with that kind of thing. The host of the Redacted show claimed that, quote, the Western media is not going to show you this story. Okay, that's part of the propaganda narrative that is that there's a conspiracy out there and the Illuminati doesn't want it. Well, now it's the Western media or the swamp or whatever. It could be any kind of big bad elites out there, and that's the conspiracy. And when you hear that, that should be a red flag to say, if the entire free Western media isn't saying something, maybe it's because there's not something to be said. Okay. First of all, we investigated the source of the photo visible in the viral post. That's this one. Okay. This photo looks familiar. It looked familiar to me. Tin Eye's reverse image results search results showed that it had circulated online since at least April 2022. For instance, Reuters reported that on April 13th, 2022, Russian state TV released what it had said was footage of Ukrainian soldiers surrendering in the city of Mariupol. However, Reuters was not able to verify the authenticity of the video. So they recycle these kinds of images. It's not necessarily the same thing. Okay, let's look at just a little clip. This was the video that I did just 3 days ago, about 10,000 Russian soldiers really surrendering. Okay, and we'll look into it and hear what they have to say, and just my little commentary, and then what they say.
And we want to get right into it. So let's start right there. And let's talk about the biggest story of the day, which I think inarguably is what's been happening in the war in Ukraine. And we're going to be looking more deeply here in a second. So Ukraine is surrendering. I mean, that is the word. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are laying down their weapons.
That's the word from Russia. So when you frame it like I just framed it, it's a different thing than that's the word.
And surrendering to Russian troops. This is amazing, right? This is a story.
It would be amazing if it was actually happening, but it is the official Russian narrative, and you can't find it in the Western press anywhere. And so, yeah, this is so. Okay, some folks, Scott Ritter, Doug McGregor, Redacted, the Duran, these guys, Jackson Hinkle, are what I call repeaters. They simply repeat Russian talking points and then act like it's really a thing, where we found that the veracity of Russian state media is pretty low. So let's hear what they have to say and then just kind of look at the assumptions behind it.
The Western media does not want you to see. Over the past few weeks, we've been tracking
the Western media. I can't find it in Google because the Western media is hiding it. Now, which is more likely to your mind? That the Western press, the free press, is just hiding it, that they're all colluding to not say anything, or that Russia, which has been proven to lie regularly in Russian state media, maybe made it up, especially after you see that it actually is what happened to Russians. Nearly 10,000 Russians have contacted Surrender Hotline in Kyiv. Okay, so let's just keep going. And
you know, he makes really good points. All right, let's keep going and look at this. So you hear the same kind of thing repeated. Here's the Hindustan Times, an Indian paper that just cuts and pastes RT kind of things. Thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are opting to surrender to the Russian army. These surrenders were seen even through the newly established Russian radio frequency. Clayton Morris, that's who you just heard talking, is an American journalist, expressed his astonishment and said, "This is a story that the Western media does not want you to see." Okay, you see how this is all tied together? It's like one lie, and then somebody lies about the lie, and then somebody else lies about the lie, and then repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. And okay, so let's hear how this is carried on the Jimmy Dore show. This is also one of those shows like the Duran, like not RT. RT is trying to pretend to be straight news. This is at least commentary, like what we just saw. Let's hear what they have to say about the same incident.
Here's something that we have to point out too as well, because while our Congress is over there fighting to give more money to Ukraine in their money laundering scheme, we're seeing this all over the place. This is from TFI Global. 17,000 troops gone.
Oh, TFI Global, as if TFI Global is actually real news that's not just repeating RT and TASS. Like he's just, oh, see, this is legitimate. It's not. It's you might as well have just traced it to the original source. I mean, this is what I do with my students, right? Like if they're quoting somebody that was quoting from another book, you go to the actual book or the actual article from which it came. You don't just quote somebody who's quoted. That's what they're doing here. and he thinks he's making this profound statement.
10,000 concedes Ukrainian surrender stats revealed. And this has been happening all over the place. Oh, sorry, let me go here.
According to Russia. Now, when you say this has been happening all over the place according to Russia, again, it changes the way that you view it.
So, Ukrainian troops are surrendering en masse. In recent weeks,
according to Russia,
a significant number of Ukrainian troops have surrendered to the Russian military, utilizing a dedicated radio frequency established by the Russian armed forces known as Volga, with a call sign of 149.200. So in other words, what they're doing, Misha, is they're leaving their radio frequency set to this dial. If you want to sit there and you want to surrender, because the Russians know. The Russians see these videos of the Ukrainians going out there, grabbing these kids or grabbing these adults or grabbing these Ukrainian.
Which is more propaganda points that was apparently made up, and they're just grabbing them off the street and putting them into the front line, and they don't want to be there.
Citizens and throwing them to the front line. They don't want to fight anymore. They know what's going on, and they're compassionate about it. People are saying, why hasn't Russia won this war yet? Because they don't want to wipe it off the face of the planet, Ukraine.
You don't think that they would have tried to win if they could have won? This is 580, 590 days into the war, and really?
They look at these people as their brothers and sisters, and they're trying their...
If they looked at these people as their brothers and sisters, how do you account for the atrocities? Think about Bucha. Think about how the Russians have looted and raped, literally raped and pillaged wherever they have gone. Like, they're not treating them like their brothers. They're treating them like they're inferior, not even second class, maybe third or fourth class citizens who they're engaged in an active genocide against. So this is just Philistine pig ignorance, what this guy's saying. So the point of this is that he's just repeating what was already there, and you have to do some thinking for yourself. Critical thinking is in short supply. There was this great meme I saw here. Nope. Critical thinking, none for me, thanks. That is kind of where we are right now. I hope this informs you and helps you both understand what's going on with the 10,000, but also the elusive, invisible 10,000 that aren't actually surrendering, and helps you not just see that, but helps you think how to think about sifting through the news. If you've done that, if you've achieved that understanding, then I've succeeded in my task here today. Thank you for listening to me to this point. Thank you for likes, subscribes, sharing this. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.